everyone. Thank you for coming in today. Today we have Dr. Julian Hosp. Sorry, let me get this projector hooked up for you. And the doctor is going to be talking about connecting blockchains for you guys today. So please give it up. He's going to start with the questions and answers. So if you have any questions, go ahead and start getting those ready. And I'm going to go ahead and get his PowerPoint pulled up for him real quick. So I'll give it over to you, Doctor.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Full house. Wow. That's really cool. Hey, before we get everything ready here, I always love to start off a bit of getting a temperature for the room. Could I know who here got started in crypto 2017, 2018? Show of hands. So last year, this year. Okay, majority. Wow. 2016? 15? Okay. 14? That was also my year. Okay. 2013? Still a few. 2012? Wow. 11? Oh. The people with the big bags, yeah. 2010? 2009? Any Satoshi here? No? Okay, cool. Awesome, that's really great. Could I also know who here has heard about decentralized exchanges? Show of hands. Okay, who has no freaking clue? Please be honest so I get a feeling. Okay, who here knows what the Lightning Network is? Okay, who here does not know what the Lightning Network is? Okay, I just really want to know because then I know how deep I can go with technical stuff. Who here knows what atomic swaps are? Show of hands. Who does not know what atomic swaps are? Okay, fantastic. Great. Awesome. What I want to talk about in the next, I would say 15 minutes, and then I'm going to go into some Q&A if you have. I want to talk about how, in my opinion, or our opinion at TenX, we envision the future with blockchains. And what we envision is that blockchains will actually be connected natively directly, without a token, without any other solution, which would allow any person to go on any blockchain, so let's say on Bitcoin, and could talk to any other blockchain that exists without having to trust anything or anyone else. And to me, this is going to be the massive breakthrough over the next 5 to 10 years that's actually going to bring the masses into cryptocurrencies. For those of you that don't know who I am or what we do, I'm one of the co-founders at TenX. You can download our wallet if you want. We have a debit card. May I know who here actually ordered our debit card? We're not live in the US, but a couple of you. Wow, thank you so much. So we have a debit card where people can fund this card with different cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ether, Dash, tokens, and so on. And then you can just use these cryptocurrencies like you would use any credit card all around the world. We're Singapore-based. We did an ICO in June, one of the largest ones so far with $80 million US. I think one of the successes we had were really good with communication and transparency and talking to our users. We have close to 200,000 users now. We have 60 people working for us in Singapore. So we've been doing really some massive growth and some progress. We recently launched a book called Cryptocurrencies Explained Simply because we feel that there's still a lack in the market of explaining people how cryptocurrencies work. We've actually sold 100,000 of these books now. It's being translated in 10 different languages. Now we're adding another 10 because we really want to be, like, for us, it's really important to kind of explain how these things work. That's what the book looked like. You can get it on Amazon. For us, it's really about getting the info out and getting the communication out rather than to make a profit on these things. It's really about educating people. We always feel that's really, really relevant. So there's a very interesting study, and that's done by the World Economic Forum that says in the next 7 years, crypto will actually make up 10% of the global GDP. And that means it's going to be around $7 trillion US. So that's $7,000 billion. Who knows what the market cap is at the moment? 500. So it's $500 million, right? So we have a huge, huge, huge growth to go until we get there, right? So we need to, just based on this prediction, we need to do at least a 15, 20x in the next couple of years. And this doesn't sound so much, but it's actually really, really, really a lot that has to happen over these next couple of years. So we ask ourselves, what has to happen for this to actually come into place? And we actually have seen something happen, and that was in the internet stage. And what the internet actually did was it had 3 stages. And I quickly want to talk about those 3 stages, but then I really want to talk about the last stage today. So the very first stage that the internet had was it had easy usability. And in the US, AOL did a really good job on this, right? They made it really easy. You've got mail. They tried to get every American onto the internet. So they did a really, really, really good job when it came to these things. And crypto needs to do the same thing, easy usability. Now, we're not going to talk about this today, but you know that there's a lot of work to be done in this kind of area. The next one is easy access. It's also something that we in crypto have a lot to work on. Easy, like that this is convenient, that we get this easy to get from fiat into crypto. Still a big, big, big place to work on. But now comes the third one, and the third one is really relevant. Imagine for every internet application that you would have, you would need a new internet access. So you would need something new for iMessage, then you would need for Skype, then for browsing the internet. For everything, you would need to use a different internet access. No one would use this kind of internet, because what we want is, we would want it to be used agnostically, right? We want to have very, very easy access all through all these platforms. And in crypto, this means we don't want to worry about 50 different cryptocurrencies, 100, 1,000. We might want to have 2 or 3, and then maybe have access to those few that we need going around the world or different applications. But we don't want to worry about all those things. And one thing we definitely don't want is, we don't want, just because we go from one currency to another, to trust another exchange or to trust another token. This should be done natively. And so 1.5 years ago, me and my co-founders actually wrote a white paper, and you can read this on comet.network, where we kind of envisioned on what such a network could look like. And obviously, I'm going to talk about what this network should look like, but I'm not someone who stands here and wants to pitch a product. I'm not here to pitch a company. I'm a big educator. So for me, it's really relevant that I'm going to keep these things natively, and I'm going to give you tools that you can learn, and hopefully you can go out, and for those of you that are developers here, maybe you are really creative and you can start building on your own versions. And for the others, I'm going to give you examples on Comet, but then maybe you see other companies that are doing something really great, and you can learn from that. And that's always something really relevant. So we envisioned Comet, and Comet just means it's a cryptographically secure network that goes off-chain, multi-asset, instant, and is a transaction network. And what these terms mean, for some of you, this is really confusing right now, but I'm going to break this down, and you can start to understand this quite simply. If we compare Comet to how the internet would work, it's basically the same as if you compare intranets in the internet to how blockchains are in the cryptocurrency system. So a blockchain works like an intranet. It's secluded, it's in itself, and people trust each other on this blockchain, not because they trust each other, but because they trust the blockchain. So the Bitcoin people trust Bitcoin because they're on the same blockchain, but they might not trust Ethereum, they might not trust Dash, they might not trust other blockchains, but they trust itself. And this was exactly the same problem in the past. Why is this thing always cracking? Is this me or? As long as it stops cracking. Yeah, if you give me a handheld, I prefer that, because the cracking cracks me. I switch it off. Okay, so we have basically the blockchains versus the intranets. And you had the intranets 30, 40 years ago where you said, okay, I don't know, one university trusted itself and there was another university. But then how could these universities communicate with each other without having to trust a third party? Imagine it this way. If the internet today would have always a central party that everything had to route through, we would have 50 different internets, 100 different internets, because no one would want to route through the same party. So for us, it's really important that something that connects blockchains in the future needs to have a native protocol that works similar like the TCP/IP protocol. That's open source, people can use and have access to. And that's what we are defining as well. So when we defined the Comet routing protocol, it's actually a protocol that's running open source under the MIT license. So we want this protocol to be used by everyone. Obviously, it has some rules, so you can't kind of change it or commercialize it, just like with the TCP/IP. But it has to be open for people to really grab and start working on this. And this is really, really relevant, because otherwise, why would people work with our protocol? Why not create their own? Now, there's very little incentive to create your own, just like it's very little incentive to create your own TCP/IP protocol, because you can just use the other protocol. Such a network would allow a couple of really powerful things. First of all, it would allow that the blockchains are completely agnostic. It doesn't matter anymore which blockchain you're on, because you have access to all the other blockchains. It's just like today. It doesn't matter whether I from Singapore access the internet or whether you from the US do it. I can still access it. It's completely agnostic. Imagine what this does to the cryptocurrency market. It would completely revolutionize it, because a couple of reasons on why certain currencies are there or not are just based on maybe countries or locations or certain features. If this gets eradicated, this is really powerful for the ecosystem. The other thing is, it's very inclusive. It's inclusive also in this way. If you think today, 97% of people can't get into cryptocurrency. Not because of the country they live in, but because of the capabilities they have. For my mom, it's really difficult to access cryptocurrencies because she doesn't understand fully what a private key is. What is a public address? How do I store these things? Now imagine a bank has their own very private blockchain, and they onboard users there, and they help people with their own rules to onboard there. And now they would have, just like with the internet, same example, an access to Bitcoin. And now their users can access Bitcoin through their own blockchain. And they don't have to trust the bank. The bank just helps them onboard, and thereby the bank has a certain amount of control. But then the user has access to Bitcoin, to Ethereum, and so on. So it's going to be super, super inclusive. And that's really, really important today. Because if we want to be mass marketed, if we want to go mass adoption, we need to hit these people that today really struggle in getting access. The next thing is security. A system like that is completely trusting the underlying blockchains. It's not a system where you have to trust a new system. You still trust the underlying blockchain. So it's going to be as secure as Bitcoin is, or as Ethereum is. It's as secure as the blockchain that you trust in the first place. It's going to increase liquidity. We're actually going to talk about that. And it's going to ask a very interesting question. If we combined a system like this with artificial intelligence, do we actually need currencies in 20 years? We're going to talk about that, because it's going to be very interesting to ask, what do we actually need a currency for? It's a unit of account. But what if we have a system that has perfect liquidity? Do we still need a currency as a unit of account? Or could the system itself provide that? Very interesting thought process. Obviously, very long-term thinking. And then the last one is time. It would completely eradicate this problem of speed, of blockchain confirmation times. It would all be instant. And this is exactly what's needed. This is what's needed to go to Starbucks or to go to a coffee place or to send money. It has to be instant. And so let me talk a bit about the building blocks, how this system would work, and let's talk about some ins and outs. The first one is, let's talk about whether we should use not a token or whether we should use a token. And there's a couple of solutions on the market, or they're working on this, where they're using a token. And the tokenized solution is the easy solution. It's very straightforward. If you want to go from Bitcoin to Ethereum, you just use another token, and that token becomes like a mother blockchain, and everyone docks onto this mother blockchain and just connects. And that's how all these kind of chains get connected. So it's one mother blockchain. Now this is straightforward, and it works guaranteed. And that's why it's boring, and that's why probably it's not going to work. It would be the same as if the internet would all be connected to one central server, central hub, and everyone would connect to that. Why would anyone do this? No one wants to do this. Everyone wants to be in charge for themselves. That's at least my opinion, and everyone should make up their own opinion. If you think that there will ever be one mother blockchain that everyone trusts and everyone connects to, the tokenized solution will definitely work. I personally don't think so. I think it will be exactly structured how the internet is structured. Natively, everyone trusting themselves, and just giving limited trust to other parties, but just enough so you can talk to them. And there's some downsides to this. And the massive downside is the need for liquidity providers. And we're going to talk about what liquidity providers are. This is something that on the tokenized solution, you don't need as much. And this is the actual downside, because it's a chicken and egg situation. So we're going to talk about these things. Now, let's talk about the 3 building blocks that you actually need to set something up like this. And I don't know if you have, for those of you that understand atomic swaps or you understand the Lightning Network, this comes a bit easier. But for the others, I'm going to explain this to you from a high-level view. For those that are developers, in the Q&A, I'm happy to go into details for this. So the way this works is, imagine you sit on the Bitcoin blockchain, okay? And this is the Bitcoin blockchain. It's my left hand. and the right hand is my Ethereum blockchain, and this is your buddy. So this is Bitcoin, this is Ethereum. Now what you need is, in order for this to work, the blockchain needs to have multi-signature function. A multi-signature function just means that two people can open a new account. In blockchain, let's just call it an account. It's a virtual kind of thing. And two people have the right to sign. So two people have a signature. So I have Bitcoin, you have Ethereum here, I have Bitcoin here, and I would love to send you Bitcoin, and you would love to send me Ethereum, but we're not trusting anyone. So what we do is we open a multi-signature function, which is a virtual account in the middle, and I put my Bitcoin here, and you put your Ethereum here. Now here's where it gets really important. It needs a hashing functionality. And that means when we open this account, you have a secret, and I have a secret. And only if I know your secret, I can take out your Ethereum. And if you know my Bitcoin, you can take my Bitcoin out. The way this gets hashed together is, if you know my secret, I automatically know your secret. If I never reveal my secret, you never reveal your secret. And that's automatic through a cryptographic function. It's completely secure. That means if you take my Bitcoin, I automatically get your Ethereum. If you never give me your Ethereum, you never get my Bitcoin. It's completely secure. It's not because you have to trust me. It's not because I have to trust you. It's just we trust each other through a cryptographic function. And now comes the third and really important point. Since it's only you and me, where do we store this information? There's no blockchain that is stored on, because I'm on Bitcoin, you're on Ethereum. So where are we storing this information? We're storing this information on our own service. So you store it on yours, I store it on mine. So there's a problem. What if I put in a Bitcoin and you put in one Ethereum, and then you just go offline? I'm never going to get your secret, so how am I ever going to get my Bitcoin back out? Because you just go offline, so my Bitcoin is stuck in there. So the third really important feature that we need is a so-called time lock. And a time lock is based on the underlying blockchain. So I know, for example, if you don't update your state after 24 hours based on my Bitcoin blockchain, I automatically get my Bitcoin out and you get your Ethereum out. So if nothing is happening within those 24 hours, or we're not updating the time, I automatically get my Bitcoin out, you automatically get your Ethereum out. If we are online during this time, then we can update the 24 hours and we can say, okay, let's give it another 24 hours. So any blockchain that has those three kind of features, so multi-sig, hashing functionality, and a time lock, works in such a system. And it allows the two systems to connect together. No, the time lock is just until automatically I get my Bitcoin back out. So the question was, what does this have to do with the time? So I open a channel with you, and I put in a Bitcoin, you put in an Ethereum. Now, what happens if you just go offline? And my Bitcoin is stuck in there now, because I need to have your approval, I need to get your secret to get my Bitcoin back out. So how long do I have to wait until I get my Bitcoin back out? And I wait as long as we agreed on at the very beginning based on the time. So the shorter the time, the faster I get my Bitcoin back out, but the risk is also that if one of us goes offline during this time because I don't want to be online 24 hours, what happens is I automatically get my Bitcoin back out. So the longer the time on the time lock, the less often I have to be online. But the downside is if I have to wait longer until I actually get my money out. So if you're online and you send me your signature, it's actually really simple. As soon as you give me the key, the secret, I can just sign. I get we swap and it's fine. But what if I put my Bitcoin in, you put your Ethereum in, and then you go offline? How am I going to get my Bitcoin back? I can't just take it out because I need your secret to get it out. And in order to, what do I do? So I wait the 24 hours in this case. So this allows us to connect to blockchains. Now here's really important. So if we look at Comet, it's completely cryptographically secure. And it's off-chain. I make a channel from blockchain A to blockchain B. What this allows is, it's instant. I'm not limited by the speed of the blockchains. So I'm not limited by Bitcoin, I don't know, taking 3, 4, 5 confirmations. I can do it instantly. and I only need to do it with one other person. Now, we've actually been testing now if we can do it with 3, 4, 5, 6 people in something what we call inception, similar like the movie, where there's like layering, and we can do something similar. We've been testing this. We've still had problems in testing, but we think we can have breakthroughs in this. This would be really exciting, because then you don't only do this with 2 people, you could do this with an entire group. And that's where it gets really, really exciting from a game theoretical point. But this is really, really advanced. So I just want to kind of throw this out. So there's something called inception that we're trying on doing. But now, where it gets really exciting is the following. We can start connecting blockchains. So imagine this is one blockchain, it's another blockchain, another blockchain, another blockchain, another blockchain. And as long as people connect these blockchains, I can connect from one person to the other, to the other, to the other, and I could start controlling coins on one blockchain without ever owning them. Because what I can do is, I can go and build these channels from person to person to person. I can say, hey, listen, I give you Bitcoin. If you give the next person Ethereum, if you give the next person Dash, if you give the next person Monero. And because all of this is cryptographically securely connected, I could start controlling the entire network with my funds that I have in. The advantage of this is it's completely natively. No mother blockchain, no mother that is needed. Everyone just, I trust my own blockchain. And this could be a country. We're talking, for example, with Singapore on the project Ubin, how this could work for Singapore. We're talking to other countries as well. So this could be a country that has their own, let's say, crypto Sing dollar and wants to connect here to Bitcoin and wants to connect to the entire rest of the world. So the country here could have their rules for people who are in their own country. And so they can have their own kind of set of rules, and then they allow a connection to Bitcoin. For those people that are smart enough to connect to Bitcoin directly, they don't need this. They can go directly to Bitcoin and trust Bitcoin. The US can do the same thing. And so such a system where no one has to trust the other, but there's no mother in the world as well, this is a really, really powerful kind of tool for the blockchain world here. There's one downside, and that's a downside that I mentioned, and that is whenever you hop from one blockchain to another, you need people who trust, not trust, who have the liquidity, so own coins in both blockchains. So if you want to go, let's say, from Bitcoin to Ethereum to Dash, the person, let's say this is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dash, then this person needs to be working with Bitcoin, with Ethereum, and with Dash. Great. So that person needs to have a lot of liquidity. And that liquidity, just like anything, is expensive because it's capital. So this is where we in the future actually see a lot of banks come in and say, you know, we have all this working capital. How can we put this into place? Well, we can put it into place to become what today maybe is internet service providers in the internet, could be liquidity providers. And then how we envision a lot of how this would work is we're going to have a lot of liquidity providers where a lot of other users dock onto, and then from there they connect to other liquidity providers. And so I actually see that a lot of how the internet is set up today, with internet service providers having all the users connecting to other internet service providers, that's a lot on how this new kind of network would work. And this is also something that's really important to me. I don't believe that banks going to go extinct. I don't believe that countries going to go extinct. I believe that it's going to be the mix. And those banks, those countries, those businesses that find that mix between the old world and the new world, these are the companies that are going to be thriving. And here's the really powerful thought. It always just takes one. If one bank understands this today, and there's banks who are understanding this, they're going to put so much pressure on every other bank. If one country starts understanding this, they put so much pressure on everyone else. And that's what's really good for us, because the competition is so fantastic for us as users. So I think this has actually a really, really bright future. So if we just look 1 minute into the future, there's actually some really crazy thought on what such a system could do. First of all, it would be extremely secure, it's really low cost, and it's really high speed. It would eradicate a lot of the dinosaur infrastructure that is still kind of dominating our world today. And any business that still relies on these middlemen trying to provide security for whatever thing it is, it's going to go extinct with such a system unless it adapts. So any one of you that is in a business where you provide security or stability, consider what such a system could be the implications. Because even if not Comet the way I presented here is going to come, something in this direction will come. And it will attack what you're doing right now. The same if you're trying to work on low cost. The cost here is probably going to go to zero. So at some point, I believe, we're not paying transaction fees anymore, just like we used to pay per SMS, per megabyte used. How is everyone paying the internet today? It's a flat per month. And I think it's going to be the exact same thing going forward. We're going to pay an access fee to money or to liquidity or whatever in the future. So you pay, I don't know, $1 a month, and then you can send as much money as you want all around the world or use any financial service. And that brings me to the final point. If we add AI here, we have perfect price discovery. Because this system understands real estate, stocks, gold, currencies, property prices all around the world, and can match prices perfectly. And suddenly the question is, do we actually need a currency or not? Because a currency is the unit of account in this case. And this is, I think, a really, really interesting thought that I want to leave you with. If you, again, want to support this, check out what we're doing at TenX. If you want to understand cryptocurrencies, super simple. I talk about Comet in this book as well. Then get this book on Amazon. And I would love to answer maybe 1 or 2 questions right now. And then afterwards, if you have any questions, we can do this outside. Thank you so much. I'll do 1 or 2 questions. Yes, please.
What is your biggest obstacle right now to mainstream adoption? And then when is the card going to be available in the US?
So 2 questions. So what is the major hurdle right now for Comet? And then when is the card available in the US? So let's do the card. We're shooting for the card for the end of next month. Hopefully it's going to work. Maybe it's going to be April. But that's definitely the aim. Major adoption for Comet is 2 things. The first one is liquidity. It's a chicken and egg situation. So why should someone go in, provide liquidity if there's no users, right? And why should users come in if there's no liquidity? Chicken egg. But there's a second big problem. And the second big problem is we have very little data right now on how to route. It's very inexperienced. So here it's very simple because the routing is this way. But in the future, the routing is going to be a combination out of 3 things. It's going to be of the most secure way. It's going to be about the cheapest way and about the fastest way. And so we're going to have competition of routing in this network. And we've been testing a lot on how such routing could work. So what we're going to do first is we're going to start with single or double hops. So 1, 2 hops. So the routing is very simple because it's not complicated. And then the future will be maybe 6, 7, 10, 20 different hops, right? And that's going to be a very complex routing model. This is going to be only solved over time. Yeah. Let's do 1 more. Yes, please. Yes, we're getting our own banking license, actually, yeah.
And second one is that since the transaction rates are very low, how it's going to track you if I use the fabric on my card, how soon I can.
Let's not answer card questions right now. I think card questions is not the topic, right? I really want to talk about the fundamentals here of blockchain connections. Yeah. Is there a question on Comet? Yes, please. Last one. Okay, fantastic question. So why would there be private blockchains in a sense that they are not completely decentralized? There's a couple of reasons. Obviously, the first question is, who's going to teach millions and billions of people on how to access a public system? Why is Facebook not using a private key public address? Why not? They could. Every one of us, when you register on Facebook, you have a random generator, and you get your private key, and that private key generates your public profile. So when you log in, all you do is, instead of doing a username and password, all you type in is your private key, and that automatically generates your public profile. You know why you're not doing this? Because Facebook is tired of millions of people calling them, I lost my private key. So, and you're logged out because they can't get the profile for you, right? So who's going to teach millions and billions of people on how to use a system that has no central database, where no one can help with recovery? Who's going to help with? Look, I have over 100,000 followers in social media. People think I'm a social media I'm a crypto helpline. You know, I don't know how many direct messages I get every day on, man, I lost my Bitcoin, I lost my Ether. What am I supposed to do, right? So who's going to do this? And so someone will have to do it. Now, since such a system cannot be public and decentralized by definition, it has to be, at least the beginning, private, centralized, some way of access. But the system still has to be new in a way that it docks into public blockchains, because otherwise it's completely separated. So who's going to teach these people? And I still believe banks have a very good chance in doing this. I don't think all the banks will do it. I think some banks will do it. And if one bank does it in the US, they're going to take the entire market. So if one bank starts, all the other banks that sit on their hands, they're going to miss out. And I promise you, there will be one bank who starts. There will be one bank who says, listen, I'm a person. You can look me in the face. You can come to my, building. I teach you how you get access to the crypto world. Now, you get access to our blockchain first, where we have some regulation and some limitation. But from there, you will have access to Bitcoin, Ether, and so on, with certain rules. And that's how they're going to start, I promise you. Because there will be one bank who's smart enough who teach the entire employees 2018 how crypto works, and they're going to take the entire market. Well, I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. I just care that one does it, and I'm 100% sure one does it. And the same is with countries, and that's, yeah, and one country, so yeah. Guys, if you have any other questions, I'm going to be outside. Looking forward to that, and thanks so much once again.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Hosp. Everyone, we will be back here in 10 minutes, so go ahead and do what you need to do. I'll see you in a little bit.